welcome.
Good evening, everyone. It's a beautiful Saturday to discuss a few things that my good old friend here, Mr. Winchester Lynn, has built up for us for tonight's campfire session. So, without further ado, Mr. Winchester, take us away.
Thank you, Matt. So, hello everyone. My name is Winchester, and for the past 10 years, I've been a marketing consultant. Um, it's a business consultant, uh, and all almost anything under the sun, because I wasn't sure who I was. I didn't know what good am I to this world. So I came to a point where I got confused about who am I? What can I do to make this world better for everyone, especially for my kids? Because my kids, if I imagine them growing up in a world that's not congruent with my message, I I would feel lost. They would feel lost as well. So if I if I actually speak in a confused manner, everyone who hears what I'm saying will actually pick that up and also feel that energy. And hello, Chris. Thank you for coming. And
Yo,
let's
Good evening, Chris.
continue. Um,
yep,
And Mr.
yep.
in the
Just
background.
continue. Yep.
so yeah. So um, I didn't know where I was going. I I worked as um, well, for the first part. I started my um, career as a salesperson, a realtor, um, while I was while I was in school. And though it was a very good opportunity to learn, um, I didn't see my my ideal uh, self in that scenario. So I actually went into a lot of other stuff that I even taught preschool. I even taught arts in preschool. Um, I actually um, also taught English to Chinese kids, which is fantastic because it made me more conversant with uh, people of a different uh, language level. And it made me also
Mhm.
feel, good evening, Risa. So it made me feel that I wasn't, um, I wasn't, uh, for the most part, being, um, I lost my message because I was thinking. Okay. So yeah, for
Mhm.
everyone out there who actually um, are listening, and
Mhm.
thank you for being here. Um,
Yeah.
it's fun to actually see the process unfold, uh, because
Mhm.
right now you will also feel the uncertainty that I'm feeling right now because I'm thinking from my head instead of my heart.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's
It's
okay,
it's
right?
a
How
Yeah.
many of you watching are have that experience? You forget what you're about
Mhm.
to say because you're thinking too much. Comment me, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And also,
And
good evening, Doc JR. Welcome to the
hi,
live.
Dr. R.
Oh,
Yes.
JR, good evening.
So yeah, everyone will feel that way, especially when you look at it from your mind, from your brain, because you want your message out. Uh, you want to say something, but then you actually don't focus on why you're saying something. You lose focus
Mhm.
because you create these scenarios in your head that's making you instead of conversing with each other, it's making you preach, it's making you teach, it's making you speak in a level that's not actually uh, uh, connected with anyone, because
Yeah.
you're
Mhm. Mhm.
especially when
I see.
if you remember when you were uh, in school, when we were in school, who would you actually listen to? The teacher who just reads from the book, or hello, oh,
Yeah.
but
Blessed evening. Great to see
listen,
you guys here.
yeah.
Miss
So
Maria. Hi.
who would actually be uh, more appealing to you? The teacher who reads from the book, or the teacher who actually plays with you, who actually interacts with you, who makes you feel that you're part of the group, you're part of the learning, and not just because they need to say something because it's their job, right?
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get
Mhm.
that.
So yeah, that's how it is. If your message comes across as very um, monotonous, um, very scripted, it it changes the way it's perceived by the listener, or by whoever is listening to you, and that makes it inauthentic. Hello, Tati. Thank you. Oh, I love
Santi, good evening.
Tati, Miss Tati Sobra. You really uh, helped me a lot with creating this. Um, so Miss Tati is my role model as a teacher who really who really listens and
Mm.
makes you feel connected whenever she teaches. So yeah, it,
True.
it's it's lovely to feel connected to everyone right now. So everyone listening, I hope you're already done with your dinner, or whatever. I'm actually still
I'm
um,
medyo
you know.
guilty ako, no. I'm done with dinner, but then there's wine, so may kinina.
Oh,
So
actually later I'll probably be
I
taking
love the energy.
a little
Appreciate.
myself. But yeah, so yeah, if you're if you are going to look at that question, coming back to the question,
Mhm.
who am I?
Mhm. Mhm.
I'd rather not talk than sending an incomplete thought. Very good. Actually, that's true. But sometimes an incomplete thought may also become an avenue for you to
Oh, that's
explore.
nice. Miss Claire Charity. Me too. I
Me
really love Miss
too.
Diana
Uh,
Cyril Alvarez Castro.
yeah. We love you, Miss
I
Tati.
feel that.
So yeah, an incomplete thought is actually it may be used as an avenue to actually create an open conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of not uh, instead of completing the thought, letting it hanging actually makes it feel more. Um, it's like a cliffhanger where you where your mind actually makes words that would add up to that mix, and that actually makes it more alive, more not rather than just uh, a message that is just static. It becomes alive. It becomes something that changes while you're actually talking, while you're actually making it, and that actually is sometimes more powerful than just merely having your um, having a simple thought brought out in a message. So who am I? That's a very very hard thing to ask yourself, especially when you are conflicted, confused, um, a little depressed, probably when you're not in state, when you're not actually um listening to God. It makes you it makes you feel that you're you're bombarded by a lot of things, and that doesn't make it it doesn't make it easier for you to um, speak your truth if you um, if you don't listen. You
Sige,
have to listen.
I'll help
It's
simplify this for people. Kasi the the question itself, no, who am I? Um, what about God and all of that stuff? Some for some of you, you might not be wondering that. Some of you might even have certainty,
mm,
like Miss Maria over here. Para sa kanya si Darna daw siya. Right?
yes,
So
yes,
I
she
am
is.
and
She
I am
is.
more of a doer. Okay. So what Sir Win is talking about here is the gravity of the word "Who am I?" That in a way it could also be attributed to meaning. What sort of meaning do you have in your life? And correct me if I'm wrong. Your the "Who am I?" is also something about legacy, right? So when you're gone from the world, can I be Ding? Si ano to si Doc JR to, can I be Ding?
Can I
I have
be
no
the
idea who Ding is. Pero yeah, go back to you, back to you, Sir Win.
So yeah, that is quite true. Your message, your core being will last even beyond your years. It will resonate with you. See, Token. See, who just died. The motivational speakers. Those people. Those people had a very very concrete message that's connected to their soul. It's connected to whoever they portrayed in their lives, and it resonated to everyone. And it still resonates because it's that powerful when you find your message or your identity through that, and it becomes somewhat um, a little a little confusing when you feel when you mix identity with um, with how you live your life. There are times when the message um, doesn't come across as uh, what do you call this? Uh, the the person that comes to my mind is um, Mahatma Gandhi. So he had issues with how he lived his life, but his message of peace, of um, really equality, that resonated with the world, and that made his message live on even beyond his years. And that's why I wanted everyone to understand how to actually craft your identity. And um, it all starts with actually knowing what are your core values. Are you integrity based? Intentions, okay. So intentions actually makes it, um, intentions can't change. It depends on the situation. It depends on how you uh, view a certain situation. But your values, if you look at it, if you define your values, your core values,
And can you give us an example of what you mean by values?
okay. So, for example, are you integrity based? Meaning, if you say something, you mean it and you feel it to your core. Do you say what you mean and mean what you say? That's integrity based. Or are you deceptive? Do you use lies to actually fill your world with what you want? Or let's say if you are um, what are the others? What are the core values? I lost my train of thought.
Well, maybe Miss Tati can actually help, right? Miss Tati,
Yes.
what do you think values, or can you give us some
Uh,
examples of what values are?
it depends who is the teacher. Kasi when you
Yes.
talk about values, school of thought will say love, uh, compassion, trust. But another set of values could be family, could be success. So it depends on the person you're talking to. My question is more on what led you to your own pursuit of who you are. If we
Okay.
were to ask you, what are the
And
values that are burning inside of you? That's why you want to share this to the world so that
boom.
other people could understand what you mean by values. Kasi
Mm,
if you talk to this
mm,
teacher, values would mean my family,
yeah.
sharing to charity. With another set of people, values could mean love. It could mean those big words. So for you, Win, what are your values?
So for me, my values. Oh, nag-echo ako. Pero yeah. So my values are actually really based on integrity, on truth. If if something doesn't feel right, if something um, makes makes me um, makes me doubt,
Mm-hmm.
it often um, um, claws on me. It becomes an emotion that tries to get my attention. If
Now
I don't,
we're talking about your values now of integrity.
yes,
In your case, you have this path, and if integrity is your main value, how does it show up in your life?
okay.
What were the
In-
conflicts that could you give an example of a conflict that you could share publicly that would test your integrity?
yeah. So, like whenever I find a new client, and before, uh, the reason why I don't like um, sales, I don't like um, how it was portrayed when I was younger, was
Mm-hmm.
because it it uh, it led you, well, it was taught to me that I should lie for me to actually get 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 something. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, um if I'm selling this water purifier, and I say that this water purifier actually um, fights cancer, that that is a lie. That is an outright lie, because a water purifier cannot fight cancer if you truly look at the
Mm-hmm.
science. That's why I even in when I was in insurance,
Mm-hmm.
if I were to sell something and tell an outright lie of it will grow in its value.
It's guaranteed to rise.
Yeah, it's it's adding on to the truth, and that's actually gonna claw into you, into me. It clawed into me, so it also affected my performance uh, as an insurance agent. I couldn't sell with beyond my circle, because I already have this inkling that this doesn't work, because I do the math rather than rather than listen to the sales pitch, and that hurts. Actually, it hurts a lot when you look at it, because um, if you really try to find the truth in everything, it also um, makes it also shines on everything. So if your
Mm-hmm.
intention, if your intention to is to deceive someone, if your intention is to make someone uh, do or manipulate, you manipulate someone to do things that you want them to do, it shows, and creates it also creates that void in you, that that is that's going to eat you up actually from inside. I
Sige,
know.
and I just wanna verify, no. So the first step on finding your identity is knowing your values. Okay.
Yes.
So that's the first step, defining your values. And I just want to expound a bit on that. Okay. Bakit, why is that so important? Like what Winchester just said.
Mm-hmm.
Um, your values will basically determine whether your whether a particular job or action suits you or not. Okay? Kasi if even if something does pay a lot of money and if it doesn't align with your values and you're just there for the money, eventually it will catch up to you. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, so values are settled. What's the next indication? What else do they have to do to find
So
out their identity?
they actually need to ask or introspect. There are ways to do it, or there are tests outside.
Wait, let's define
You need to
introspection.
find.
Let's define introspection muna.
Okay.
What do you mean by introspecting?
So
Mm-hmm.
introspection is actually looking at your life, um, seeing uh, seeing your results, your past, if it coincides with something that you want um, to focus on. So my uh, I was going to say you have to introspect and find your strengths and know your weaknesses so that you can um, you can actually use it to your advantage in making your uh, identity or making your message. So
Okay.
yeah, um, if you look at it, uh, there are the strengths there. There's strengths finder. There's whatever tools that you have
There's the
that you can
Enneagram from
buy.
our good friend Royce.
Enneagram, yes. That also gives you an insight on how you actually think, how you direct your energies, and uh, how you connect with other people. That's actually one of the best things to use. An Enneagram, StrengthsFinder, um, and all the others. Uh, so there, if you find your strengths, know your strengths, and understand your weaknesses, understand your triggers, understand how they um, come up when you actually create something.
And this comment is from NJ, no? Kung saan talaga ako mahina, doon ako lumalakas. What do you mean by this,
Because
Roy?
that's where you focus your attention, and that's good. Pero what we're saying is actually um, when you actually know your strengths and weaknesses, you can um, drive your energy. You can focus your energy into whatever works for that certain situation. It doesn't mean that mahina ka dito or you're weak in some part that it can actually break you. Sometimes that also can be a strength. Vulnerability for men. It doesn't it doesn't it is a sign of weakness for men, but in all honesty, since I've been vulnerable the past 2 years, I've found my strength more rather than be uh, crippled by it. And that's actually very good if you're looking for your message, because it comes across as you're actually not afraid to become to show that you you have these weaknesses, you have these flaws that you need to address, but you are addressing them, and that's good. And it makes your message more powerful if you use it that way. So um, let me just recap. Find your values. Hello.
Oh,
So
this is
find your
Lee,
values,
Lee
introspect,
Alvarez.
and know your strengths and weaknesses. And the third one is actually
Wait, wait. I'm sorry. Before we go to the third one, I just wanna, what's the word I'm looking for? I just wanna make sure everyone got this. Introspection is your ability to see your life. Is your ability to see your life. Um, ano tawag dito? It's your
from a
ability to
third
see
person.
yourself, yeah, from a third
Yeah,
person's point of view. Okay,
yes.
and then to clear then yung sinabi ni Winchester kanina, di ba? Um, Thank you for that, Sir Win. Um, you need to know your strengths, right? and you need to know your weaknesses at the same time. Now, however, that is easier said than done because
Yes.
introspection also requires you to see what is ugly and actually embrace it, which Winchester has done spectacularly um,
Mm-hmm.
throughout throughout his life. So yun lang, I just want to emphasize that. Sige, Sir Win, back to you, the third one.
Thank you. Thank you. So the third one is actually integration. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to look at it, your strengths, your weaknesses, and your values guide you. They make they make you into someone that you want to be. Or actually, if you live by it, it makes you be who you really are. And if you find yourself, if you try to actually just accept everything that is you, flaws and all, it actually makes you a better conveyor of your message. If you look at it, each person's life is different, and each person's strengths, weaknesses, values vary in how they live their life. And that is unique in itself. And your message actually can come across from that from that well of wisdom, from that well of knowledge, where you actually focus on why why did it work for me, and how can I help others work it out for themselves as well. And that's actually why integration is very very important. It does not uh, it does not let you shouldn't throw away your experiences, good and bad, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
they are part of you because they actually made you clear on what your values, what your strengths, and what your weaknesses are. Because they exposed you into something that uh, you you didn't expect, and it made you it made you more what do you call this? It actually it made you uh, expose yourself into into a situation that doesn't that isn't uh, comfortable. And when you actually um, go through an uncomfortable situation, that that experience makes you grow. Nothing nothing that isn't painful. Oh, where am I going at? Nothing that isn't painful will not make nothing that makes that nothing that is painful will let you stay where you are. It makes you move. Anything that makes anything that makes you uncomfortable makes you move from where you're at, where your spot is. And it also makes you uh, grow as a person.
I find that statement funny. I don't get me wrong, I agree with it. Because it's like a it's like a merge of stoicism and cynicism in one. So
Yeah.
let's do ano tawag dito? Life is full of pain, but
Mhm.
ano tawag dito? But pain makes you stronger. Blah blah blah. So it's a
Yeah.
it's a,
Yeah.
it's a
It's a
mix of
mix. Yeah.
school of thought. Okay.
I actually love ano, I love mixing philosophies, mixing schools of thoughts kasi no not one
Mm.
school of thought is correct, completely correct. It's always a part of something. So when you actually find how it makes you feel or how it makes you see it, then it becomes your uh, your core value or something that you accept. So yeah, it doesn't always become ano, it doesn't always become just a conversation piece.
Yeah. And to go
Sometimes
back to
yeah,
what Tati said earlier, 'di ba? Um your sometimes your values depend on the teacher.
yes.
So that that that's the school of thought thingy. So sige. So the first thing you said was knowing your values. What was the second thing again? Uh
Introspect
sa
introspect
introspection, and the
your
third one is integration. Okay.
integration.
So
Yes.
what's next?
So when you actually integrate, it makes you um, clear on what you want and what you don't want, right? And if you see that, if you see things clearly, when you want to convey a message, when you try to speak your truth about something, it makes it 100% in your mind, a very convincing thought, because if you are clear with with your message, with what you want to say, it actually uh, goes it actually goes to your audience. Your audience actually feels more certain in listening to what your message is. Like right now, I don't feel 100% with the message that I'm trying to say. If you're looking at it, if you're hearing it, you actually feel my confusion as well, because I don't know if you uh, I'm not 100% sure if you can perceive what I'm trying to say. But if I try to talk in some if I try to convey a message that has 100% certainty, if you feel the impact, the energy that comes from me whenever I talk,
Go,
even
Tati.
if it's even if it's an outright lie. Sorry, sorry.
Winchester,
Yes.
can you give me an example of a part of your life where you were able to where you were confused and then you found your values and then you went into introspection and then you went into integration for us to have a clear picture of how that looked like in your life?
Okay. So it's funny that you actually asked that, because I just came through a process, that full process, just over the
Let's
weekend.
add more spice.
Last
Let's add more spice here. What was the event? What was the event that pushed you to review your values, to go into introspection, and get to
okay.
integration?
So I actually was a little burned out. I tried to juggle more tasks than uh, I I could, and it in the end it actually bit my ass. I lost some clients, and that made me feel inadequate. That made me feel lost, and I had to actually um, reassess. I had to see, why am I doing this? What are my values? Am I really just in it for the money? Am I, or do I really want to serve? Do I really want to make an impact in the world through them, through my clients? Because they have a message that they want to say to the world, and that made me clear. I didn't want to get more clients just because it made me uh, it made me more money. I
What
wanted more
values were
clients.
sacrificed? What values were sacrificed when you were going through this process?
So the values of actually, if you're going to look at it, it's it's the value of uh, me being a provider, rather than just um, get more income. I made it sure that I find the right clients, and that also made me clear that I didn't want clients that were just in it for the money. I wanted clients who, yes, they need the money, but it's more than the money. It's the impact that they have if
You
the
wanted,
world
you wanted
hears their
your
message.
visions. You
Why
wanted
does
your
it bother
mission.
you?
Take a
Why
go.
does
Go,
it
go.
bother you if your clients are don't have the same values as you? What how does it affect you? What's the impact on yourself?
It negatively affects your psyche, because whenever you interact, you you actually um, interact with how you throw your values out there. So if my value is I want to serve, but then the person I'm talking to is just, I'm in it for the money. When it will clash, and it will actually gnaw on each other, and whoever has the more resilient value will win over, and actually um, it will um, it will uh, eat up the energy of the one that lost, and that's not that always happens, but it's never observed, because people aren't looking at it at that level. It's really just a power play of all the values that you're trying to portray in life. So if you look at it, if you get a client that doesn't jive with you, it becomes it becomes um, a reason for burnout. It becomes a reason for discontent. It becomes a reason for um, not having not having uh, to do whatever it takes uh, to make that certain task happen, right? So if you look at it,
Yeah,
your laziness, your procrastination, it speaks highly of your values. But you really need to introspect on how or why they come up.
I really like that you started off with let's get to know our values more because you just touched on just now that it will help you make or break work. Like when I say that, it's like, is it possible I could go on this client with these values that have been displayed in the relationship? Is this something worthwhile for me? Because I do believe that if there's not an alignment in values, there's not much work going to be done between you and the client. And let me just scroll back here. Introspection is really nice because you get to see where you take yourself out and then you from a third perspective view and you look at that from a third perspective view and see where does the most sensible values of mine function the most in these moments. Like, can I take them there? And the question is yes, you can, because I mean you're fond of these values. They have been a guiding force for you and have served you well, and then you play them out. You see where it fits the most. And then the best part is you touched on integration now, is because these values that were identified are the most easily and effortlessly uh, most used values you have that have worked for you and easily can produce the same things. And it just evolves. I call them strengths, like these are things that are obvious to us. I mean, does it take time to learn them? Of course, yes. But the best thing is you'll quickly realize if it's that thing that's gonna take you somewhere. And yeah, and it does take work. It takes a lot of self awareness. Like you got to go through the fire. Like you do something didn't make sense. You sit down and think what part, and you notice that I wasn't very truthful in that end there, and that's where it started to crumble. So you go back. When I say go back, you don't necessarily go back to the same opportunity, but of course there's a lot out there. You attack it as is what you learned last time, and then you just slowly create a way into a sustainable work and life balance. And I think that's a striking conversation for anybody who's trying to find that space too. I think everybody is allowed in that space, yes. It takes a lot of conversations around these things, Mr. Winchester, which you're bringing up. And for me, these are points of like reference when times for people are confusing. Like, you can call them foundations if you like these values. They can represent a lot in your life. So it's very interesting, and I'm very grateful you pointed out first the values, because I think it's before anything the foundation of anything. So Mr. Winchester, that's really brilliant. Thank you so much. Back to you, man.
So yeah. Now,
Also, welcome back, Doc.
oh yes, welcome back though.
Welcome back, Doc.
So,
Good
Good
evening.
evening, everyone. Can I also
so
add
yeah.
something to what Matt
Oh
just
yeah,
said? Okay,
go
I
though.
really, yeah, this it's just like, but I really appreciate how does the talk actually started with the core values, because as we always talk and as I always share, it's very important for us that before we'll be able to connect with our people, it's very important for us to know who we are. And starting, I think one way to start with
Yeah.
is knowing our core values. For
Mm-hmm.
example, on my side, I think one of the core values that I have is I'm honest actually. I'm
Oh
actually
wow.
dead honest, which is a also good,
Great.
which is generally it's good, but also it's kind of bad as well, because if you're honest, well, generally everyone would like it, because people would like someone who is you can be trustworthy if you're honest, but also sometimes it's not also good to be too honest, because that's what happens when some people are very, very frank in what they have to say. you end up maybe what you call this offending someone because you happen
Mm-hmm.
to talk your thoughts without considering what could be the impact of your thoughts to other people. Just it so happened that you feel saying it just because you're a frank person, and by doing so, you're being also insensitive as well. So
Mhm.
that's one of the thing, and I think one of the the importance of what our values is. So it's very important for us to understand that, and understanding our core values will also affect
Mm-hmm.
on how we on who people we will connect with and how we will interact with other people as well. So yeah, just like Matt, I really appreciate how this talk started with core values. Back to you, Sir Win.
Thank you. Thank you. So, um, now that we integrated and made our message, how do we actually make a message come across with such power, with such truth that it resonates and lives on even beyond your years? The one thing that comes to mind is actually being you. I understand that it's hard to grasp because the question is who am I? And sometimes really being being you can be confusing. But looking at it, if you're being you, if you're just living in your true self and not the in the thoughts of society, not in the thoughts of um, how you were brought up, not in feeling uh, feeling inadequate because you think you're not worthy of something. If you actually create your identity and be in it, be actually you, that resonates every time you talk, every time you speak, every time you make a message, try to boom to the world. And it actually makes sense because if you look at it, how Chris speaks, his values, his his message is so powerful because he speaks from his self, his whole self, his
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
his being. And that's why Martin Luther King actually with just that one speech made the whole world listen. It made JFK become so notoriously uh, against uh, the 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 norms of that world that they actually killed him. Conspiracy, but yeah, di ba? If you look
Yeah.
at it,
It's
being
it's it's a sign of power talaga really to know where you're coming from value wise because it's so simple to say that these values of being just being honest like Doc Jerry right here um, can take you so many places. I mean, it starts with figuring out when to be honest
mm,
and standing firm on that or just being honest with yourself sometimes is the best place to start to build something credible about you. And where give us an example, right? Like what avenues in ourselves that are commonly found that starting out could be quite the problem in being honest. For me, I'd say it could be in making a mistake, saying something that isn't true out of anger. Anger could be a good place of knowledge and learning where honesty, one of the many values, can be applied on. And what is the reward after, right? Like, well, attempting to rectify or set right the mistake out of anger that was made means you alleviated well unnecessary parts of the conversation. And for me, that's one of the many that would help describe something credible work wise later on for a person. So yeah, back to you, Mr. Winchester. It's very fascinating.
Yeah, and I just want to add something before we go back to him, right? Um,
Mm.
why is finding your identity, knowing who you are, is very important. And Winchester tackled this earlier today, right? Some of you, or well, some of us, spend a good chunk of our life working for money, working for a job, getting the
Mm-hmm.
promotion, working for a business, um, only to find that time passed them by. They were so hung up on the identity that they are the job title that they have, that their
Mm-hmm.
true identity was actually a father. They're working their asses off, um, to provide for their family, but the way they live their life is in relation to whatever job title that they have. Okay, so that's a very important distinction. Okay, so who are you really? Okay, are you the guy behind the desk, or are you the guy who provides for your family home, right? Um, and the reason why I brought that up, because I don't want people hung up now on the idea na uh, who I am. I'm gonna be the next Nelson Mandela. I'm gonna be the next Jose Rizal. Right? For some people, their identity is something more subtle. Okay, I'm the guy in the community that loves organizing barbecues.
Mm.
Parang ganon. So yun lang, right? And that in itself is already helpful enough. So yun lang.
Yeah,
Back to
yeah.
you.
Thank you, thank you. That's actually true, Chris. Kasi for some reason, this came to mind. I remember my dad telling me this story. So, um, there's this one uh, fishball seller who's actually just making his own um uh, making his products and cooking them and selling them on the street. For some reason, he's happy. I couldn't grasp that when I was younger because for me, happiness was when I get stuff. Happiness when I get um, my Gucci watch or my Guess jeans. But then as I grew older, I envied that fishball fishball dealer. I remember how my dad told me about how he actually made three of his children uh, finish finish their education, finish college, just with fishball, and that made me realize it's not really the money. It's not really creating uh, an extravagant thing. It's not even uh, making uh, making your title uh, in the company the highest possible. It's actually being happy where you are, being being really happy
True.
where you are.
And that's
Thank
Rain,
you.
what
crazy.
have you experienced in your life that that made you feel that there was a shift? That's why you wanted to share this to the people watching.
Mm.
What was that shift in you? That parang if it were yung pinakamasarap na fishball, you wanted
Mm.
to tell the whole subdivision, I found the vendor that sells the pinakamasarap na fishball. So what was that experience that you could make us at least imagine that you experience that could make you stand tall, could make you smile, and you could feel your feet standing firm on the ground? What was that experience na parang if you're going to look at it now, it does not mean then also that when you felt that you'll always be there. Kasi we always
Yes.
have our doubts.
Yes.
Kasi you figured yourself out na this time eh. I figured that, oh, these are my values. I realized my family is important. I realized that integrity needs to be there. It needs to be in place
Mhm.
for me to function and breathe lightly as a person. When I work in integrity, I can stand tall with both my feet firmly planted on the ground, and I could breathe lightly because I know that I'm living my truth. So what was that specific experience that you could
Yeah.
make us also experience so that we could see how that looks like?
Mm. Quite honestly, mahirap maghanap ng ano. It's hard to find a certain situation where uh, I found that uh, that situation because partly because I live vicariously when I learn. I I try to uh, emulate whatever um, education or knowledge or wisdom that I find, um, putting it putting uh,
Mhm.
my experience, relating it to how I actually see or perceive something, especially when 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 something happens that I couldn't understand. The easiest way I try to understand it is find a certain situation that also makes it uh, uh, or a certain situation that I can compare to. Because that's how our brains work. We compare. We try to compare. We try to analyze. We try to make sense of it all. And if you look at it, comparison comparison is really how you understand something. And yeah, if I were to look at my life, there are a lot of uh, things that I could not pick up right now.
As of now, what makes sense now? Kasi I really like what you're doing na you're really showing us that you're a person who really wants to figure things out. So
Mm.
what is that
Mhm.
in yourself na you could say that you're proud of because you're doing this in front of us?
Mm.
Na you want to figure things out and you want to bring us with you.
Mhm.
What are the values that you have now na could say na you're doing this because these are my values or you're doing this because if you were to rank whatever is important to you, could say, I'm doing this because this is important to me. Because when I do this, I can feel my own growth.
Mm.
What's that?
Actually, my my main value, my main reason of doing this is actually being the best example to my kids. Kasi
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
I were to live my life out of uh, out of congruency, out of authenticity, I would see the same thing happen to them all over again, and it will be a cycle. That's how cycles of poverty, how cycles of abuse happen. If you don't fix it from its core, if you don't try to nip it from where it actually uh, flow or actually grows from. Because when you look at it, everything that you do really stems from your core values. And if you don't understand
Mhm.
where where they are, it will grow like a weed wherever wherever it sprouts, and it will infect the whole patio or the whole garden without you noticing it. But if you find that weed, and if you actually uh, try to understand where it's where it uh, went through, where it um, actually broke in your garden, you can stop that cycle.
If I were your daughter, what I would say is, I see a father who has not totally figured things out, but he's taking things one step at a time. And even though he has not figured things out, he is showing up the best way he can. That's how I experience you right now. So
Thank you.
usually with children, children are sometimes pressured by unrealistic expectation. Most of the
Oh,
time, parents show a facade of being the best. I know what I'm doing. Listen to me because I'm your father. Listen to me because I'm your mother. But in your case, what I see is you're showing your child na I have not figured things out, but I'm doing this because I want to get to know myself better. And in doing so, I could really find my strengths and I could work also. And if I'm aware of my weaknesses, I would rather focus on my strengths and focus on my identity as a father. When I see it, when I watch you, and every time you say that you're a father, you stand straight. That's why a while ago I was asking, what are the things that would make you stand firmly on the ground? And what I noticed is every time you tell your story and bring it back to being a father and being there for your children, you stand firm. And there's a smile and there's a shine on your face. So, what I like about this, what you're sharing, is you're showing us that when you show your true self, even the way you stand, even the way you show your face, even your smile differs. There's a big difference immediately when you stand in your truth. So, Win, thank you for sharing that.
thank you, Miss Tati, for actually showing it, for exposing it. Thank you. So that actually concludes my talk. For everyone who actually listened, thank you very much. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I don't know who's here, uh, but I saw my clients from all over the world uh, who said they were going. So I hope you enjoyed or learned something from what I tried to say. So thank you. And everyone who's listening, I do hope that when you um, find your values, when you know your strengths and weaknesses, and when you integrate them, and
Hmm.
when you be who you really are, I hope your message becomes the most powerful thing that resonates throughout your life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Winchester. And yes, for well, that concludes tonight. And but that doesn't finish our interactions here. Please join us in the campfire. The links are in the in the comment section. And yeah, see you there. Let's further continue this rabbit hole of values, introspection, and integration, and how that plays out well in our lives by actively implementing these three sets of thinking. So, yes, thank you again, Mr. Winchester, and see you in the campfire. Bye bye.
All right. See you guys in